What is happening? This can't be real. I have to do something.
Jinwoo Han controlled Seoul's underworld with ruthless precision. Politicians feared him. Rivals disappeared. Empires bent to his will. But at 3 a.m., sitting alone in his office surrounded by monitors showing every angle of his children's nursery, the most powerful man in Seoul was completely powerless. 27 nannies had failed. 27 women had walked into that room confident and walked out broken. Some quit after the first night. Others lasted weeks before the guilt crushed them. 2 had nervous breakdowns. 1 had to be hospitalized. Because his twins, 6 months old, fragile as glass, sick since birth, were dying. Slowly. Doctors couldn't explain it. Specialists had no answers. Every treatment failed. Every medication made things worse. And Jinwoo, who could solve any problem with money or violence, couldn't fix this. So he watched. Hidden cameras in every corner. Monitors recording every breath, every cough, every moment. He'd watch for hours, studying the footage like it held answers. Trying to find what he was missing. What was killing his children. That's when Amara Ellis arrived. The 28th nanny. Foreign. Black. Confident in a way that immediately set her apart. She walked into the nursery, looked around, and did something none of the others had done. She looked directly at one of the cameras, not searching for it, knowing exactly where it was, and smiled. Not friendly, knowing, like she understood he was watching, like she wanted him to watch. That first night, the twins cried for 3 hours straight. Fever. Trembling. The monitors flashing warnings Jinwoo had seen too many times. He watched Amara move through the chaos. Expected her to panic like the others. Call for help. Break down. Instead, she checked the formula. Examined the vitamin bottles. Inspected the medicine cabinet with the precision of someone looking for something wrong. Then she did something that made Jinwoo's blood run cold. She took the formula they'd been using for months. The one prescribed by the family doctor. The one every nanny had used without question. And poured it down the sink. Then she prepared her own. And within an hour, the twins stopped crying. Within 2 hours, their fever broke. Within 3 hours, they were sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. Jinwoo sat in his office, staring at the screens, and realized something terrifying. His children weren't sick. They were being poisoned. And the woman on the monitors, the stranger who'd just arrived, had figured it out in a single night. If you're still watching right now, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Subscribe to our channel for stories that can make you smile and can also make you cry for absolute strangers. Now, let's get into the story. Jinwoo Han built his empire on fear. At 38, he controlled more of Seoul than the government wanted to admit. Restaurants paid him protection. Politicians took his calls. Police looked the other way. His name alone could end careers, destroy businesses, make people disappear. He'd killed his first man at 19. Built his organization at 25. By 30, he was untouchable. But none of that mattered when his wife died giving birth to twins. The doctors said it was complications. Hemorrhaging they couldn't stop. She'd been gone before he could reach the hospital. Left him with 2 premature infants, barely 3 pounds each, fighting for every breath. He'd stood in the NICU watching machines keep his children alive and realized something that terrified him more than any rival ever had. All his power meant nothing here. He couldn't threaten death into letting them live. Couldn't bribe fate. Couldn't control biology. For the first time in his adult life, Jinwoo Han was helpless. The twins came home after 3 months. Still fragile. Still sick. The doctors called it failure to thrive. Said some babies were just weaker. Needed more care. More monitoring. More everything. He hired the best. Nanny number 1 lasted 4 days. Quit after the twins cried through 72 straight hours despite every intervention. Nanny number 2 made it 2 weeks. Left in tears saying she couldn't watch them suffer. By nanny number 10, Jinwoo stopped counting days and started counting hours. Some lasted a shift. Others couldn't make it through a single night. The twins were always sick, always crying, always one crisis away from the hospital. Fevers that spiked without warning, breathing that went shallow without cause, trembling that doctors couldn't explain. He spent millions on specialists, brought in experts from around the world, ran every test medical science could offer. Nothing.
No diagnosis. No cure.
Just two babies who seemed determined to slip away no matter how much money or power their father threw at saving them. By nanny number 20, Jinwoo stopped sleeping. Started spending nights in his office watching the nursery. He'd installed cameras after nanny 15.
Hidden.
Professional grade. Every angle. Every sound. Recording everything. He told himself it was about accountability. About making sure the nannies did their jobs. But the truth was darker.
He was obsessed.
Desperate. Watching those screens like they held answers. Studying every moment. Every decision. Trying to find what he was missing. What was killing his children. Nanny 23 had a breakdown. Literally. Collapsed in the nursery sobbing that she'd failed. That she couldn't save them. That God himself couldn't keep these babies alive. Jinwoo had her removed. Hired 24. 24 quit after seeing the cameras. Said she wouldn't work under surveillance. 25 lasted 3 days before the guilt broke her. They're dying, she'd sobbed. And I don't know why. I'm doing everything right, and they're still dying. 26 made it a week. Left without explanation. Just walked out mid-shift and never came back. By the time Jinwoo was interviewing 27, he'd stopped believing anyone could help. The agency kept sending candidates. He kept hiring them. They kept failing. The twins kept deteriorating. And every night, he sat in his office surrounded by monitors showing a nursery that felt more like a tomb. Watching his children slip away. Unable to stop it. He'd built an empire on control. On power. On the absolute certainty that he could bend the world to his will. But 2 6-month-old babies were proving him wrong.
And it was destroying him.
Nanny 27 quit after 2 days. Didn't even finish her notice. Just left a resignation letter citing impossible circumstances and disappeared. The agency called the next morning. We have one more candidate. But she's different. Foreign. No traditional credentials. But she has references we verified. Miraculous recoveries. Impossible cases. If anyone can help, send her, Jinwoo said. He didn't believe in miracles. Didn't believe in impossible recoveries. But he'd tried everything else. And his children were running out of time. That afternoon, Amara Ellis walked into his office for the interview. And Jinwoo's world started to shift in ways he'd never see coming. Amara Ellis didn't look like the other nannies. The previous 27 had arrived nervous, deferential, eager to please. Amara walked into Jinwoo's office like she owned it. She was tall, American,
Black,
mid-30s, carried herself with the kind of confidence that came from surviving things money couldn't fix. Mr. Han, she said. Not a question. A greeting. He gestured to the chair. She sat. Didn't fidget.
Didn't avoid eye contact.
Just waited. The agency said you have experience with difficult cases, Jinwoo said. I have experience with children who aren't being helped by traditional methods. My twins have seen the best doctors in Seoul. In the world. They all say there's nothing wrong that treatment should fix. But the babies keep getting sicker. She said it matter-of-factly. Like she'd heard this story before. How did you know that? Because if treatment was working, you wouldn't be on Nanny 28. You'd have kept one of the first 5. He studied her. What makes you different? I don't follow protocols blindly. I question. I observe. I trust what I see over what I'm told. The previous nannies followed my instructions exactly. And your children are still sick. Maybe instructions are the problem.
No one talked to him like that.
No one questioned his decisions. Certainly not employees he was interviewing. You're very confident for someone who hasn't seen the children yet. I'm very experienced with children who've been failed by people who were too afraid to question authority. The words hit harder than intended. Because she was right. 27 nannies had followed orders. Done exactly what doctors prescribed. What he demanded. And his children were dying anyway. I have cameras, he said. Throughout the nursery. You'll be monitored constantly. Good. Then you'll see exactly what I'm doing when things improve. You're that certain? I'm certain that if you wanted someone who'd follow orders and watch your children die, you wouldn't have called me. She leaned forward. I read the medical files the agency provided. Your twins have been sick since birth. Multiple hospitalizations. Constant medications. Deteriorating despite intervention. That's not illness. That's something else. What else? I'll know after I see them. After I examine what they're being given. After I spend time in that nursery you're watching so carefully. You know about the cameras. I know you're desperate. Desperate men monitor everything. I don't mind being watched. I mind being stopped from doing what needs to be done. And what needs to be done? I'll tell you after I figure out why your children are dying when they shouldn't be. She stood. Do I have the job or not? Jinwoo should have said no. Should have found someone more compliant. More traditional. More respectful. Instead, he said, you start tonight. But understand, if anything happens to my children, cameras won't protect you. Nothing will. Amara smiled. Not warmth. Recognition. If I wanted to be safe, Mr. Han, I wouldn't be here. Now show me the nursery. And for the first time in months, Jinwoo felt something dangerous. Hope. Jinwoo watched the monitors from his office. 11 p.m. The twins had been screaming for 20 minutes. High-pitched. Desperate. The sound that usually preceded crisis. On screen, Amara moved calmly.
No panique. No rusing.
She checked vitals first. Temperature. 102. Breathing. Rapid but steady. Then she did something strange. She stopped.
Just stood there.
Looking at the room. The medicine cabinet. The formula station. The bottles lined up precisely as the doctors had ordered. She picked up the vitamin supplement. Read the label. Set it down. Picked up the prescribed formula. Examined it under the light. Her expression changed. Not alarmed. Knowing. She walked to the camera she'd looked at earlier. Stared directly into it. Mouthed 2 words. Trust me. Then she took the formula they'd been using for 3 months, the one every nanny had used, the one prescribed by the family doctor, and poured it down the sink. Jinwoo's hand moved to his phone. To call her. Stop her. Demand explanation. But something made him wait. Watch. She prepared new formula from bottles she'd brought herself. Mixed it carefully. Tested temperature. Then she lifted the first twin, the girl, Minji. Held her close. Started singing.
Low.
Rhythmic. Not a lullaby. Something else. Almost a chant. The baby's crying softened. Amara fed her the new formula slowly. Patiently. Within minutes, Minji's breathing steadied. The crying stopped. By the time she'd fed both twins, their fever had dropped to 99. By midnight, they were sleeping. Actually sleeping. Not the fitful, feverish half-consciousness Jinwoo had watched for months. Real sleep. Peaceful.
He sat back.
Stared at screens showing his children resting comfortably for the first time in their lives. Amara sat in the rocking chair between their cribs. Watching. Vigilant. Not celebrating. Not relieved. Just knowing. Like she'd expected this. Like she'd seen it before. And Jinwoo realized with absolute certainty. She'd been right. The protocols were killing them. The medicine was wrong. The formula was poison. Everything he'd trusted, doctors, specialists, prescriptions, had been slowly murdering his children. And a woman he'd met 6 hours ago had figured it out in one night. Jinwoo confronted her at 6 a.m. Walked into the nursery without knocking. Amara was changing Minji. Didn't startle. Just glanced at him and continued. The formula, he said. You threw it away. I did. Explain. In a moment. After I'm done here. No one made him wait. Certainly not employees. But she finished changing the baby, settled her back in the crib, washed her hands, and only then turned to face him. The formula was wrong. It was prescribed by Dr. Kong. I know. I read the medical files. The same Dr. Kong who's been treating them since birth. The same treatment plan that's kept them sick for 6 months. You're accusing our family doctor of malpractice? I'm observing that his treatment is harming them. Whether that's incompetence or intention is your investigation, not mine. The word hung.
Attention.
You think someone is deliberately. I think your children improved the moment I stopped using his formula. I think that's not coincidence. She walked to the medicine cabinet, pulled out bottles. This vitamin supplement. The label says B-complex, but the smell is wrong. The color is slightly off. And when I tested it last night, yes, I brought testing strips. The composition doesn't match the label. You're saying it's been tampered with. I'm saying it's not what it claims to be. Same with the reflux medication. Same with the iron drops. Everything prescribed is either wrong or altered. Jinwoo's jaw tightened. How long would it take to make them sick like this? Slow poisoning? Months. Small doses. Nothing acute enough to trigger alarm. Just enough to keep them weak. Failing. Requiring more intervention. Which requires more doctors. More prescriptions. More access to continue the poisoning without suspicion. Brilliant, really. Hide the crime in the cure. He stared at the medicine cabinet. At bottles he'd personally ensured were filled. Medications he'd trusted because doctors ordered them. Staff delivered them. Everyone assured him they were helping.
Who?
His voice was dangerously quiet. That's your question to answer. I can tell you what's wrong. You know your house better than I do. Who has access to this room? Who prepares formula? Who stocks medications? The staff. The housekeeper. Dr. Kang's office sends prescriptions directly. And who benefits from sick children? No one. They're my heirs. My only family. Then maybe it's not about benefit. Maybe it's about distraction. She held his gaze. Sick children require attention.
Constant care.
Crisis management. A man focused on dying babies isn't focused on business. On threats. On rivals making moves. The implication hit like ice. You think this is a strategy. Keep me distracted while someone does something they don't want you noticing. Or maybe it's simpler. Maybe someone in your organization has a grudge.
A debt.
A reason to hurt you in the only way that matters. By killing my children. By making them suffer. Death would be investigated. Ongoing illness? That's just tragic bad luck. No one questions bad luck. Jinwoo's hands clenched. If you're right, if someone in my house has been poisoning my children, then they know I've changed the protocol. They know the baby's improved. They know I'm a threat to whatever plan they have. You think you're in danger. I think anyone who stops a murderer midway through murder is in danger. But I didn't come here to be safe. I came here to save your children. She returned to the cribs. Checked breathing. Adjusted blankets. You have cameras everywhere. Use them. Review footage. See who's been in this room. Who had access. Who touched what. The evidence is there if you look. And you? What will you do?
My job. Keep them alive.
Keep them improving. And watch for whoever realizes I'm ruining their plan. She looked at him. But you should know, when they figure it out, they won't stop. They'll escalate. Because if your children survive, questions get asked. Investigations happen. And whoever's been doing this, they can't afford that. Then I'll kill them first. Good. But kill the right ones. Because I promise you, this isn't one person. This is coordinated. Staff. Medical. Access. That requires multiple people. A conspiracy. And conspiracies don't stop just because you catch one person. She was right. Someone, multiple someones, had spent 6 months slowly poisoning his children, using his trust against him, his desperation, his helplessness. They'd watched him suffer, watched his children deteriorate, and smiled while doing it. Jinwoo walked to the door.
Stopped.
Amara. Yes. If you're right about this, if you've just saved my children from being murdered, then they're still in danger until we find everyone involved. So don't thank me yet. Just watch the cameras. And trust that when they come for me, I'll be ready. The housekeeper noticed first. Mrs. Choi. 40 years with the family. She'd been there when Jinwoo's father built the organization, when Jinwoo took over, when his wife died. She brought fresh linens to the nursery at 9 a.m. Found Amara standing guard. "I'll take those," Amara said. Didn't move to let her in. "I always bring the linens personally, not anymore. Leave them outside. I'll collect them after I inspect them." Mrs. Choi's expression hardened. Mr. Han has never. Mr. Han has new protocols. You can verify with him if you'd like. The housekeeper left the linens. Walked away stiff-backed. 20 minutes later, Jinwoo's phone buzzed. The new nanny is being difficult. Refusing access. Violating household procedures. She has full authority over the nursery. All access goes through her. That includes you. Silence. Then, "I've cared for this family for 40 years, and my children have been sick for 6 months. The protocols are changing. Adapt." He hung up. On the monitors, he watched Amara inspect every inch of the linens before bringing them inside, checking for anything foreign, anything added. Smart. By afternoon, the staff was whispering. He saw it on cameras throughout the house. Huddles. Quiet conversations. Glances toward the nursery. Dr. Kong called at 2 p.m. "I heard you've made changes to the twins' treatment plan without consulting me." The treatment plan wasn't working. These things take time. 6 months is enough time. The new nanny has different protocols. The twins are improving. "Mr. Han, I must insist I examine them. Unauthorized changes could be dangerous. More dangerous than what you've been prescribing." Silence. Heavy. "I don't understand. You don't need to. Your services are no longer required. Send your final invoice." He hung up before the doctor could respond. That evening, Amara found a note slipped under the nursery door. Simple.
Handwritten.
"You don't know what you're interfering with. Leave while you can." She showed it to Jinwoo. "They're scared." "Good. This is a threat. This is confirmation. We're right. And they're panicking." She burned the note in the nursery fireplace. Let them panic. Panicked people make mistakes. But the threats escalated. The next morning, Amara's breakfast arrived.
She didn't eat it.
Gave it to Jinwoo. "Have it tested." The lab results came back that afternoon. Sedatives. Enough to make her drowsy. Compromised. Unable to care for the twins effectively. "They're trying to incapacitate you," Jinwoo said. "They're trying to create an opportunity. Make me useless so they can access the twins again. I'll have every staff member investigated." "No."
Not yet.
"If you investigate now, they'll know we're onto them. They'll either hide or escalate to something more drastic. Right now, they think I'm just paranoid. That's useful. You want them to think they're winning. I want them to think they have time. Time makes people sloppy." She set new rules. No one entered the nursery without her present. All food prepared by her personally. All medications administered only by her. All access controlled. The staff hated it. The whispers became complaints. Became accusations. "She's controlling Mr. Han. She's isolating the children. This isn't right." Mrs. Choi approached Jinwoo directly. "The staff is concerned. The new nanny is creating divisions. Establishing rules that undermine household authority. The household authority that allowed my children to be poisoned." The housekeeper went pale. "I don't know what she's told you, but she's told me my children are improving for the first time in 6 months. That's all I need to know. Mr. Han, I've been loyal to this family. Loyalty that watched my children deteriorate and said nothing. Either you're complicit or you're incompetent. Either way, you follow her rules now or you're dismissed."
Mrs. Choi left.
But Jinwoo saw her face. Not chastened. Calculating. That night, the power went out. Just the nursery. Selective. Intentional. Emergency lights kicked in, but the incubator monitors failed. The temperature dropped. Amara moved fast. Wrapped both twins. Held them against her body. Kept them warm through body heat while Jinwoo's security scrambled to restore power. When the lights came back on 30 minutes later, she was still holding them. Both sleeping peacefully against her. Unharmed. It was sabotage, Jinwoo said. Saw the cut wires. The deliberate damage. It was a test. They wanted to see if they could create crisis. See if I'd panic. Call for help. Give them access. They're escalating. Because I'm winning. And they can't afford that. She looked at him. This gets worse before it gets better. You know that.
He did.
Because whoever was behind this had already proven they'd killed children to achieve their goal. And now those same people knew Amara was in their way, which meant she was next. If you're still watching, drop a "still watching" in the comments, because this next part changes everything. It happened at 2 a.m. Total blackout.
Not just the nursery this time.
The entire estate. Security systems failed.
Gates.
Cameras. Alarms. All dead. Amara grabbed both twins immediately.
Wrapped them.
Held them close. Then heard it. Footsteps. Multiple. Coming up the stairs. Not security. Wrong rhythm. Wrong weight. Intruders. She moved to the panic room Jinwoo had shown her. Keypad dead, without power. Locked out. The footsteps got closer. She had seconds. Did the only thing possible. Grab the fireplace poker. Position herself between the cribs and the door. If they wanted the twins, they'd have to go through her. The door burst open. 3 men. Masked.
Armed.
They saw her. Saw the poker.
Laughed.
Move aside. We're not here for you. Then you're leaving disappointed. The first one rushed her.
She swung.
Connected with his knee. He went down screaming. Second one pulled a gun. Don't make this. Gunshot. But not from him. From behind him.
He dropped.
The third man turned. Jinwoo stood in the doorway. Blood on his face. Gun raised. Eyes feral. Touch them and I'll make you beg for death. The man ran. Jinwoo shot him in the back.
No hesitación. No merci.
Just execution. He crossed to Amara. Checked the twins. Both crying but alive. Unharmed. You protected them.
His voice was raw.
That's my job. Against 3 armed men with a fireplace poker. I've faced worse with less. He looked at her. Really looked. Saw the woman who'd stood against intruders alone. Who'd chosen to fight rather than hide. Who'd put his children's lives above her own without question. The power was sabotage. They coordinated this. Used the blackout to breach. I know. But they didn't account for me being paranoid enough to sleep in the nursery. Or you being close enough to hear the gunshot. Are they? They're fine. Scared but fine. Jinwoo's hands shook. From adrenaline. From rage. From the realization of how close he'd come to losing everything. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This was an attempt. They'll try again. Let them. Next time I'll be ready. She touched his arm. We'll be ready. That's when it shifted. No longer employer and employee. Partners. United by blood and violence, and the shared understanding that they'd both die before letting anyone harm these children. Jinwoo's interrogation methods were effective. Brutal. Efficient. The 3 intruders talked within hours. What they revealed was worse than murder. It was betrayal. Dr. Kong had been paid. Not to kill the twins outright, that would trigger investigation.
But to keep them sick. Weak.
Dependent. For 18 months minimum. Why 18 months? Jinwoo asked. Voice deadly calm. The man was crying.
Broken.
The will. Your wife's family trust. If the twins die before 18 months, the inheritance reverts to her brother. If they survive but remain incapacitated, he becomes medical guardian. Controls the money either way. Her brother. The one who'd cried at the funeral. Who'd offered support. Who'd visited twice and then disappeared. Who stood to inherit $40 million if the twins died or stayed sick long enough. Who else? Mrs. Choi. She's his aunt. Been feeding him information. Coordinating access. She's the one who hired Dr. Kong. Recommended him specifically. The housekeeper. 40 years of loyalty. All performance. All strategy. All leading to this. The formula. The medications. Who tampered with them? Dr. Kang's office prepared them. Mrs. Choi ensured they were delivered unchanged. The other staff didn't know, just followed orders. Jinwoo looked at Amara. She'd been right. Coordinated. Multiple people. A conspiracy that had watched his children suffer for 6 months while positioning for inheritance. He had them all brought to the estate. Mrs. Choi, Dr. Kong,
His brother-in-law.
lined them up in his office while Amara watched the twins via monitor. You poisoned my children. Mrs. Choi's face was stone. I served this family. You served your nephew. Using your access. Your trust. 40 years of loyalty, and this is how it ends. They were weak anyway. Barely survived birth. We just helped nature. You helped murder. For money. He looked at Dr. Kong. You took an oath.
Donoar.
I did no harm. I simply didn't help. There's a difference. Legally? Maybe. Morally? You're a monster. The doctor shrugged. Monsters get paid. I did. Jinwoo's brother-in-law tried to negotiate. Look, we can split the inheritance. You don't need that money. Your children are fine now. Just let this go. My children are fine because of Amara.
Despite you. Despite your aunt.
Despite your hired doctor slowly poisoning them. They're yours by blood but hers by money. The trust was clear. The trust is forfeit. The inheritance goes to the twins when they turn 25. You get nothing. Except consequences. He shot the doctor first.
Clean.
Professional. Between the eyes. Mrs. Choi tried to run. His security stopped her.
40 years, she spat.
I gave this family 40 years. And you spent 6 months trying to murder my children. That erases 40 years in my eyes. She died next. His brother-in-law begged. Offered money. Information. Anything.
Please.
Your wife would want. My wife would want her children alive. You wanted them dead. Or broken. Same thing. The last shot echoed. Jinwoo stood alone in his office, surrounded by bodies and the wreckage of trust he'd given too freely. Amara appeared in the doorway. The twins are still sleeping. They're safe. Because of you. Because we stopped them in time. But Jinwoo, there might be others. People who knew. People who stayed quiet. Then we'll find them too. Together. She nodded.
Partners now.
Bound by blood that wasn't theirs, but they'd both shed to protect. 3 weeks after the bodies were buried and the conspirators erased from existence, Jinwoo did something he hadn't done in 6 months. He slept. Not in his office watching monitors. In his bedroom. For 7 straight hours. He woke disoriented.
Panicked.
Checked his phone for emergency alerts. Nothing. Pulled up the nursery cameras on his tablet. The twins were awake. Amara was feeding them. Singing quietly. Both babies calm.
Healthy.
Their color was good. Weight finally gaining.
No trembling. No fever. No crisis.
He watched for 10 minutes. Waiting for something to go wrong. Nothing did. Amara was just caring for them.
Competently.
Calmly. Without him hovering. Without his intervention. Without his control. It should have made him anxious. Instead, he felt something unfamiliar. Relief. He went to the nursery. Amara glanced up. You slept. I did.
Good.
You needed it. I should have been sleeping. Which you were.
The twins are fine.
I would have called if they weren't. He looked at his children. Really looked. They'd changed. Filled out.
Grown.
Minji was trying to grab her feet. Minjun was making sounds that weren't crying.
Actual babbling.
Happy sounds. They're so different. They're healthy. This is what healthy babies do. I've never seen them like this. Because they've never been like this. You're seeing them for the first time without poison in their systems. This is who they actually are. He sat in the rocking chair.
Watched.
Amara finished feeding. Burped them. Changed them. Made it look easy. You should hold them, she said. I don't want to disrupt their routine. You're their father. You're not a disruption. She placed Minji in his arms. The baby looked at him. Actually looked. Focused. Aware. Not the glazed, feverish stare he was used to. She reached up. grabbed his finger.
Held on.
Something in his chest cracked. She knows you, Amara said softly.
How?
I've barely. You've been here every day, watching. Even when you couldn't hold them, you were present. Children know that. They feel it. Minjun started fussing. Amara picked him up. Stood beside Jinwoo. You did everything you could. You just didn't know what you were fighting. That's not failure. That's betrayal. There's a difference. I should have seen it. Should have known. You're not a doctor. Not a parent who'd done this before. You were a first-time father dealing with sick children and people you trusted lying to your face. You can't blame yourself for not seeing what they hid deliberately. But you saw it. Because I wasn't invested in trusting them. I came in skeptical. That's an advantage you didn't have. She shifted Minjun. You've spent 6 months trying to control everything because you were terrified of losing them. But control doesn't save children.
Care does.
And you care more than anyone I've ever seen. I don't know how to do this. How to be their father without controlling every moment. You learn. By trusting. By accepting you can't prevent everything. By being present without hovering. What if something happens? Then we handle it. Together. But Jinwoo, they're not fragile anymore. They're strong. You have to let yourself see that. He looked at Minji. She'd fallen asleep in his arms. Peaceful. Trusting. Safe. I don't know how to trust after this. You trust by starting small. Trust that I'll call if something's wrong. Trust that the twins are improving. Trust that the worst is behind us. Is it? Behind us. The conspiracy is eliminated. The threat is neutralized. What's left is recovery.
For them.
And for you. That night, Jinwoo didn't watch the monitors. Didn't check footage. Didn't verify Amara was following protocols. He just let go.
Trusted.
It felt like falling. But for the first time, he understood that falling wasn't always fatal. Sometimes it was necessary. Sometimes it was the only way to learn that someone would catch you. And Amara had proven she'd catch his children. Which meant she'd catch him too. Over the following weeks, routine stabilized. The twins
Thrived.
gained weight, hit milestones, smiled,
Played.
became children instead of patients. Jinwoo learned to hold them without fear, to play without analyzing, to be present without controlling. And Amara watched him transform from a man paralyzed by fear into a father learning to trust. One night, after the twins were asleep, they sat in the nursery.
Quiet.
Comfortable.
Thank you, he said.
For what? For saving them. For saving me. For teaching me that love isn't about control. Love is about trust. You're learning that. That's enough. He looked at her. This woman who'd walked into his house a stranger and become family.
Stay.
Not just as their nanny. As family. Please. She smiled. I'm not going anywhere. Someone has to make sure you don't backslide into obsessive monitoring. The cameras are still there. I know. But you're not watching them every second. That's progress.
It was.
And for the first time since his wife died, Jinwoo felt like maybe they'd be okay. 6 months after Amara arrived, the twins took their first steps. Minji first, wobbling across the nursery floor toward Jinwoo with determination that made his chest tight. Minjun followed 3 days later, more cautious but just as persistent. They were healthy, thriving, everything doctors said they'd never be. Amara stood in the doorway watching, smiling. You did this, Jinwoo said. We did this.
You protected them.
I healed them. Team effort. But it was more than healing. The twins adored her. Called her Mara because they couldn't quite manage Amara yet. Reached for her when they were tired. Looked for her when they woke. She wasn't their mother. But she was family. And that was enough. Jinwoo had the legal paperwork drawn up. Guardian designation. If anything happened to him, Amara became their legal parent. No question.
No contest.
No relatives who could claim them. You don't have to do this, she said when he showed her.
Ido.
You saved them. You've earned the right to protect them if I can't. That's not why I stayed. I know. You stayed because you love them. That's exactly why you're the only person I trust with this.
She signed.
Official. Legal.
Family.
The household was different now. New staff. Vetted personally by Jinwoo. No one with connections to his wife's family. No one with access they couldn't account for. Security tightened. Protocols established. And the twins flourished in the structure. Their first birthday came. A small celebration. Just them. No extended family.
No outsiders.
Amara baked a cake. The twins smashed it everywhere.
Laughed. Played.
Were children for the first time. Jinwoo watched from across the room. Amara caught his eye. Smiled. Mouthed. They're okay. They were. But shadows lingered. There would always be people who wanted to hurt him through his children. Rivals. Enemies. Those who saw vulnerability in love. He couldn't eliminate every threat. Couldn't control every danger. But he had something now he hadn't before.
Trust.
Amara would protect them when he couldn't. Would see threats he missed. Would fight for them the way she'd fought that first night. And together they were stronger than any conspiracy. The twins were asleep. Amara was cleaning up the birthday chaos. Jinwoo helped. Do you regret it? He asked. Coming here. Staying. Becoming part of this dangerous life. I regret nothing that led to them being alive. Even the threats, the attempts, almost dying, especially those. Because they proved what matters. And what matters is those two children sleeping safely upstairs. She looked at him. Do you regret letting me stay? Giving me this much power over your family? I regret not trusting you sooner. Not letting go faster. Not seeing that control was killing what I was trying to save. You see it now. That's what matters. They stood in the kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of a normal family birthday. Something Jinwoo never thought he'd have. What happens next? He asked. Next we keep them safe.
Keep them healthy. Keep them loved.
The rest is just details. My world is dangerous. There will be more threats. And we'll face them. Together. Like we faced everything else. She smiled. But tonight? Tonight we celebrate that they're here.
Healthy. Happy. Alive.
That's the victory.
It was.
The greatest victory Jinwoo had ever achieved. Not through violence or control or power, but through trust. Through letting someone in. Through accepting he couldn't do it alone. His children were alive because he'd learned that lesson. And they'd keep living because he'd keep learning it. The empire he'd built would continue. Threats would come. Danger would always lurk. But for the first time, Jinwoo understood that his greatest strength wasn't control. It was this. Family. Love.
Trust.
The things money couldn't buy and power couldn't protect. The things that made life worth the risk. And as he watched Amara finish cleaning, humming the same song she'd sung that first night, Jinwoo knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever came next, they'd face it together.
And that was enough.
If you made it this far, thank you, seriously. Here's what I want to know. Would you trust someone who arrived as a stranger to become your family? Can love built in crisis be stronger than blood? Comment trust if you believe Amara earned her place. Comment family if you think chosen family is just as real. Where are you watching from? Have you ever had someone unexpected become essential to your survival? Subscribe if you haven't. These stories need you. Next week, she was hired to be his fake wife for 6 months, then discovered he'd been married to her legally for 3 years. Until then, remember, sometimes the people who save us are the ones we never saw coming. Control can't protect what matters. Only trust can. And family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the person who fights for your children like they're her own.